Hey guys, welcome to another Friday night podcast. I am Nadine.
And I am Nick.
And today, what are we talking about today, Nick?
I don't know. You tell me.
Okay, so we're going to be talking about why men do not like to communicate. So the reason why we decided to do this particular topic is because somebody left a comment in one of our podcast comment sections asking, they basically said men want communication and they don't like to communicate. So if you left that comment, you definitely know who you are. We're not calling any names, but we thought we'd have some fun with that particular comment, okay? So again, as we go through the podcast, we don't claim to be experts. We feel that we do have a successful marriage. We have kind of lived through a lot of things with each other, conquered a lot of things with each other. And so we thought it would be interesting to do this podcast and talk about some everyday topics that we're already talking about. Okay, so go down in the comment section and definitely leave a comment for us. Tell us what you're thinking. Tell us how you're feeling. Let's get a dialogue going. All right, so let's get started. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, don't forget to subscribe. Go down below and hit that subscribe button. Okay, now let's get going. Okay, so basically, we're looking at communication. So basically, what is communication?
You're asking me?
Yeah, I'm asking you. What is communication? Because we were told that men... Okay, so the comment was men want communication and they don't like to communicate. So we have a man here. We're going to ask him, what is communication? Like, let's see if he even knows what communication is.
Well, it's not... I don't think it's men don't like to communicate or don't want to communicate. I think it's probably just a different style of communicating.
Okay.
And communication is, in my opinion, I think it's just the idea of sharing your opinion and thoughts on any particular thing, and you as the sender is clear, and the receiver, whoever you're talking to, is the receiver is clear in what you're trying to bring across or what you're trying to say.
Okay.
That's effective communication.
Okay, effective communication. Okay, so when a person says men do not like to communicate, okay, I'm just kind of, we have pointers that we're going to go through one by one and kind of, hit those topics. So say men don't like to communicate. So I would be interested in knowing, in what way do men not like to communicate? I feel for women, they feel as though because men are not as talkative, men don't show as much emotion, that would deem them.
I don't think you could say men do not like to communicate.
Men,
like,
okay.
Like, I don't think you could say that. I don't think that's an accurate statement to say men don't want to communicate or don't like to communicate, but because we have to communicate in some form or fashion. So okay. I mean, I could get it if you say we don't communicate right enough, or we lacking in that department. But just to say men don't communicate,
men don't communicate.
I can't agree with that statement.
Okay, so let's talk about communication. Well, let's talk about the communication patterns that men have and that women have. Because some years ago, I read this book called The Power of a Praying Wife. And that's not the only book that I've read about communication between men and women in. But that book enlightened me in the way how kind of like God created man and God created woman. And with creating both men and women, they're created differently, right? But meant to be created to come together as one, to kind of balance the scale a little bit, right? So the only way to have effective communication is to have a balanced scale, obviously, and where Nick might be weak in one area and I might be strong. I can use my strength. And where I might be weak in an area and he may be strong, he can go ahead and use his strength to balance that scale, which makes us then one in a relationship. Okay? So,
yeah, but I think go ahead. I'll get it. We'll get into what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
In a little bit.
So clearly, communication styles. So Nick always says this to me. He feels like when people say, in order to have a good relationship, you should probably be saying this, but in order to have a good relationship, you need to have good communication.
No,
he always says it's overrated. Like, people just say it, kind of fly it off their tongue.
I just think every relationship, how should I say this now? every time you see any type of relationship or any type of challenge happening in any relationship, the first thing that a person would say is, "Oh, we got to communicate." Or communication is always a big deal in a relationship, which it is a big deal, right? But I get kind of concerned when I just hear people throwing the word around, "Oh, communication," and not saying what kind of communication it is. Because if it's not, everybody could communicate.
Yes.
But if it's not effective communication, you're kind of wasting your time.
That is true.
You know what I mean? And communication, to communicate with somebody, you could do it in so many different ways. There's so many verbal, nonverbal, blah, blah, blah. Social media, email, text, whatever. It's so many, right?
So basically, verbal, so types of communication are verbal, nonverbal, and we also have written forms of communication. So you can also, like he said, via text, right? Now, on the receiver end, they're receiving that in very many different ways. So, I guess the number one thing to pay attention to for a woman to a man is we need clarification.
Yeah. So right? Hold on. So you just threw some different forms of communication out there. So you said nonverbal. Give me an example of a nonverbal communication. Communicating.
Okay. So if I'm upset with you, you can usually tell in my body language, right? Because I'm probably disconnected, kind of apart from you, not wanting to come near you, not, kind of doing things like, I'm not saying that I would be slamming things down personally, but if you're doing things, you're kind of doing it in a more irate manner, kind of more short form. You're not doing things with, the type of care and concern in which you normally do them.
So what you're saying is body gestures.
Gestures. And even
like
physically.
Body language.
You could be withholding physically as well.
Yeah.
So you put your hand on me and I'm like pulling away.
And obviously, verbal, everybody knows what verbal is. You speak, you talking, right?
Yes.
That's verbal.
And then, of course, the opposite. I could be cuddling with you, snuggling with you, hugging, kissing. All those types are nonverbal communication. Clearly, if you walk in the house and you want to hug me and embrace me, that's a form of communication that tells me you care, you miss, you love.
That's actually a good one. That is true.
Yeah.
That we do every day and don't even take note of it. That's a nonverbal communication. And so that's a good one.
Even when they're slapping you, slapping you on the rear end, that is a form of communication. It may not be the favorite form of communication, but it's a form of a man's communication sometimes. Let's see, what else?
So that's nonverbal.
That is nonverbal.
You did verbal, which everybody knows.
Everybody knows what verbal is.
And you said, other one you said is written, right?
Yes.
What's the form of written
communication? I wrote you a letter. I
send a
you.
Text.
Yeah, I sent you an email. So those are all different forms.
And just so there's
even social media.
Even though you're sending a text, your style of text says a lot too. So you got to be careful. If you're sending caps, you're kind of shouting at somebody. So you got to be careful how you send a written style of communication to somebody. It has to be in in a tasteful form.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Emojis.
So you
so
can
forth.
be can be rude. You can be rude in a
text.
in the written form of communication. So
and sometimes
you got to be careful.
The reader can misconstrue, because I know that Nick has sent me something, and I'm like looking at it sideways. I'm like, did you just say that to me like that? And then, so what I've learned to do is I've learned to use clarification. Okay. So clarification is very important. You must clarify if you don't understand, or if you think. My favorite thing to do is to say, what did you just say to me? Like, excuse me? Did I just hear this? Even reciting what the person just said, and what did you mean by this, is another good way to clarify communication. Now,
yeah.
I'm just gonna cite something. I'm not accurate on this, so don't come for me. But I once heard that because men are nonverbal, like they don't verbalize as much as women, men actually scientifically utilize less words per day than a woman, right? So that would explain why when a man, so let's just say a woman uses 1,000,000 words and a man only uses 10,000.
That was a study done on that?
It was a study, but like,
wow.
I'm just throwing random numbers out, but it was significantly less words per day. So men are using way less. They get up in the morning, it's morning. If you're not a morning person, like this guy, he's a morning person. I am not a morning person.
Super early, guys.
Do not talk to me in the morning. Don't be like this, saying anything to me in the morning, because I need to sleep. I just need to get my rest, right? And he goes to bed earlier and I go to bed later. So like, that's just not a good open window for communicating with me. So example, he gets up early in the morning. He wants to talk. And I'm just not there yet. Anyways, he gets up and he goes to work. He's chatty throughout the day. Then he walks in the house. Chatty, really chatty on this particular day. He's done. He's quiet. He's closed.
Sometimes you just use up your words for the day.
Yeah,
early.
So
so
so the men use their words.
You use up your words for the day
really
early. So when you don't have any more, you ran out.
So women, take it easy with them. They don't have any more words for you guys. They've used them all up throughout the day. Oh. And so what I will say to Nick in the daytime is, some days I will be like, Nick, don't use up too many words today because I need you. It's really silly. But I have said that to you before, right? Don't use up too many of your words, too many of your man words for the day, because I absolutely need you today. I need to kind of unleash, and I need your feedback. Okay?
Yeah, but I mean, honestly, guys, like, I mean, you could throw all these theories out there, all these studies and all of this. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, it still goes back to knowing your partner, right? You got to know that person that you're trying to communicate with, or who you're bonding with. You got to know that person in and out. You got to study that person like you're going for a PhD degree, So I mean, I think if you know that, if you study that, then everything else will be easy, because you already know what they like, what they don't like, yada yada yada, and all of that is part of communicating. So I mean, at the end of the day, it's knowing your partner exactly.
And you have to take the time to build that kind of relationship to get to know your partner, right?
Yeah.
It's really important to, don't just assume things. Ask questions. And if you're not getting your answers, you need to make it be known that you need these questions to be answered, that it's important.
Yeah.
And maybe you need to relay why it's important. And the problem with this is that this is not a one-way street. This is a two-way street. So women, you can be trying to figure out your man all you want. But the problem is also on the other end, right? So if you're the only one trying to figure it out and he's not reciprocating, he's not on his end trying to also figure you out, I can give you examples. There's times when I'm going through something and Nick is totally like, he knows it. He feels it. He sees it, because he's taken the time to understand how I move who I am. Okay, why is she quiet now? She's doing everything she's supposed to do.
Yeah.
But she's quiet. Why? Like, what's going on? And he will settle that disruption in my emotional state or whatever by now reciprocating what he knows that I like. So knowing love languages is important.
Yeah.
I have a love language of, what do I like, Nick? What's my love language?
Gifts.
I do like gifts. I do like gifts, and I do like affirmation.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So I don't want us to get lost or just start ranting it off.
Yeah.
But the main point is, men do communicate, guys. We do communicate. I mean, as a man, you know, in my opinion, we might be a little bit more stoic at times than a female, but it's not that we don't want to communicate, or it's just that we don't really show our emotions that much like a female would or a woman would.
Because usually it's societal, right?
But that stuff and a lot of that is based on your society, your surrounding, you, the way you were brought up.
Yeah.
You know, culture. So it's a lot.
It's a big one.
That has a lot to do with it too. So I mean,
women are told that you have to be nurturers.
Yeah. And
not all women are nurturing. Let's be honest. Like, some women are just not as nurturing as others. You have, Miss Perfection over here. She knows how to take care of her husband. She knows how to cook. She knows how to clean. She's got all the boo-boos covered up and taken care of. And you have Miss, okay, she's not exactly perfect over here. And she doesn't have it all quite down. She's not as organized. She doesn't know how to maybe set the house in order. She doesn't know how to respond to some of the children's injuries, maybe. She doesn't even know how to respond to her husband 100%. Yeah. But she's expected to do it. And that can take a toll on a female. So we have to understand that we're all individuals. So, it's not good to look at another and judge and compare, right?
Yeah.
The man. Some men are very macho man type, very boisterous, loud. Some men are a little quieter, a little more subtle. So, it really all depends. It depends on what they grew up with as well.
Yeah.
It's culture, your immediate family life, what you've seen growing up. So it's not really a good idea to put stereotypes.
Yeah. It's and I just thought of something too, man. So we said culture, right?
Yes.
And you have in some culture, the female is so low on the pole, they're not considered anything special. So that communication is a one-way street.
Wow.
It's not.
Yeah.
So effective communication has to go back and forth. It has to be two ways, you know what I mean?
In order to
work.
in
some culture, as we all know, a woman, this is what you're supposed to do. This is what it is, and that's it.
In some cultures, we also have to remember, in some cultures, women are aggressors, or they're much more aggressive, or they will stand head to head with a man.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's another thing that we need to look at, because that does happen as well, right?
And guys, I'm saying this because I've been in the military for over 20 years, and I've been to a lot of places, and I've seen a lot, so I'm not just running at the mouth. This is kind of what I've seen and I've known, so, I mean, it is what it is. So, I mean, obviously, when you go to these places, you have to respect and honor people's culture that they have going, or else you'll be in problems. So, I mean, yeah, but communication is it's so much to it. Yeah. There's so many branches off it. It's we could talk about this for days. We could go on and on. I just think that. All right, guys, camera battery died on us, so
as per always, I thought we had a full battery.
But like I was saying, there's communication. There's so many parts to it. It's so much that we could still learn and still learning how to communicate effectively. So
So I just want to quote a Bible verse that I have here. It says, basically it's in Colossians 3 verse 12. We're not going to like go deep into it, but it says basically, clothe yourselves with compassion, kindness, humility, and gentleness, as well as patience. Okay. So basically it encourages us to approach our relationships with empathy and compassion. And what is empathy? What is empathy? Like, we definitely need to have empathy when we're dealing with each other. So empathy would be like having an understanding. So you might not necessarily feel a certain way or agree with something somebody's saying, but I think it's fair that you should at least empathize with a person, have some type of empathy, have some type of compassion, and have some type of patience. Patience is a big thing. And
it is.
A lot of these communication patterns go back to what we talked about on our previous podcast. We were talking about pride, right? How important it is to drop your pride. When you are in a relationship of any sort that you value, whether it be your marriage, your relationship with your parents, your relationship with your children, your relationship with a friend, relationship with somebody that you're dating, you must drop your pride in order to have effective communication.
Yeah, you have to. You have to do that, man. It's like an example is like you have. Say I'm the supervisor, right? And I got my workers, and they're out there working in the hot sun, just getting it, and say one person come in and they said, they come in for a break, they want some water or something, and I'm the supervisor. I'm like, no, get back out there, blah blah blah. That's a lack of empathy, right? That's a lack of empathy for that person because I'm not showing any type of a feeling towards that person and what they're going through at that time out there in the sun. So it goes back to effective communication. You have to be able to listen to the person, right? You got to be able to kind of feel what that person is saying. So I mean, it's and I just say listen. That's a big part of communicating too, right?
Yeah.
So you gotta be a great listener.
Yeah. And so when men are listening, okay, so women hence believe men do not communicate well. So this is where men are probably listening to them and trying to solve a problem when a woman merely probably just wants a listening ear, right? She doesn't always want a man to solve a problem. And sometimes she might, right? So it's up to a man to figure out, okay, are we solving a problem here? Or are we just providing a listening ear? And maybe even asking the question without, because I know Nick has said it to me before. I don't think he was trying to be rude, but he was like, okay, so what would you want me to do? Like, what do you want me to do with this? And I'm looking at him like, did you just say, what do you want me to do?
Yeah.
Because I'm probably in a zone. Well, maybe I do want him to do something. Maybe I don't want him to do something. But I'm like, he needs to figure it out. But we also have to understand they don't know what we're thinking. So we have to be clear communicators. Clearly communicate women to a man.
And that is so true because I always tell her, I said, I'm not a mind reader. I can't. Like, you have to, like, I just tell me what it is.
Sometimes we just want them to know.
Just tell me what it is. Like, and I'm gonna tell you guys something. So, obviously, I work with a lot of guys, and like all the stories, all the complaints are similar. They're the same. Don't matter if you're black, white, green, purple, blue, or whatever. They're all the same, right? So we had a conversation where like some guy was talking about his wife, like she's in the house and she's just working, doing stuff, cleaning up, yada 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 yada, and out of nowhere, like she'll get upset, like, why you're not doing that, or why is that not happening, or whatever. But we all look at each other and be like, all you got to do is just say it. don't just start moving on your own and not saying nothing. So, I mean, as men, I think in that area, you are right. Sometimes we need, just let us know exactly what's on your mind or what you're thinking. So, I mean, that was my little 2 cents for that one. That we share similarities when it comes to that as men.
Do you think you've ever had a challenge with communicating with me, like in the past? Like, let's say when we were a little fresher, trying to get to know each other a little bit more?
Of course. I mean, communication is always something you're working on.
Okay, so give me one challenge you think.
One challenge?
That was difficult to kind of overcome in communication and even our relationship.
Well, I don't think... I wouldn't say...
What is the greatest victory? What's one thing that you've learned to do that has made things much easier for you?
No, that's easy. I mean, just understanding you more, you know what I mean? Because in the beginning, like when we just met, I mean, I don't know, obviously, I don't know you're in and out. So, I mean, the challenge was just trying to get to know you and what you like and what you don't like or whatever. And just by me knowing you more, kind of increase my communication with you, which is kind of like if you guys understand what I'm saying, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And one thing to remember to improve communication, one big thing is definitely throw in those date nights, spend time with each other, like make time. If you guys have kids, if you don't have kids, you have busy jobs, whatever it is, make time for each other, even spending an hour, in the evening together to wind down, or just a date night every couple of weeks or even once a month. Communicate throughout the day. I'm really bad with my phone, so it's very hard to communicate with me because my phone is on the ceiling sometimes. I'm exaggerating, but my phone is all over the place. Like, I'm not a person that walks around with my phone. So with that being said, Nick has, he's bickered with me. He has complained. He has said to me, if he is out there and something crazy happens to him, he's not calling me. And he's been pissed about it because, that's a form of communication that I lack in, right? With telephone communication. So what he has learned to do is thank God for technology, because he now taps into the Alexa, right?
Yeah.
So we have it all over the house. And when he can't get me on the phone, he now communicates with me on the Alexa. So just kind of bending and turning. There's going to be some parts of your partner that are going to be very difficult and hard to change, right? And for me, part of that is having a lot of kids and a lot of things to do, right?
Yeah.
So he has been empathetic, not so much sympathetic, but empathetic in what goes on. So he has found ulterior things to do in order to make communication more effective between myself and him throughout the day, which I think is useful.
I mean, it's one of them things where you just have to find a solution, or the best way that you could that you think off. You know what I mean? And I thought the best thing I thought about was the Alexa that we had. So I kind of utilized that a lot. Mm-hmm. My kids utilize it too. They call me on it. They don't have to dial anything. They just say call dad or whatever.
Yeah, their phones are not. Their phones are taken.
It calls me, so
they don't have their phones.
I mean,
yeah,
it works.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah.
So just as important to enhance communication between yourselves: active listening, empathy, understanding each other. And one thing I do want to say, in Proverbs, it says something very significant. And I can't remember exactly where in Proverbs it says this, but do not have answers before you listen. Do not have the answers ready before you take time to listen. Mm-hmm. Okay? Because a lot of time, I think women do that a lot. I do that sometimes.
Shooting from the hip.
Yeah. You have the answer before you even hear the whole story.
I mean, I think we're all guilty of that, right?
Yeah.
Like we're all guilty of, we hear the first two things and we're like, oh, it must be this. And then you just start saying some other stuff. and before the person finish their complete thought, and then you're like, oh man, that's what it was, and then you feel stupid. So I mean, it's always, I'm guilty of it, you know, she's guilty of it, but it's, you're in the heat of the moment. You know, a lot of times it happens in the heat of the moment when your emotions get the best of you. So if you could control your emotions and just be disciplined to listen, you know, then I think that will work. That works out good for communicating. You know, so
definitely.
I mean, yeah. I just thought about, you asked me a question earlier about any challenges we had when we just met or whatever, and I kind of gave like a generic answer, but I think one of them was, you know, like my wife, she talks a lot, like a lot more. I didn't know I could meet somebody talk more than me, right?
No, hold on.
Let me finish.
Hold on.
We're not practicing effective communication right now.
Before he continues,
let me finish.
I don't speak a lot to everybody. It's only with people. Let's be fair to me. Okay. I don't speak a lot to everybody. I just speak to who I'm comfortable around, because like I go to work and people are like, she doesn't speak. Like, this girl, she doesn't speak. Like, do you speak? No.
See, all right. So see that guy, that wasn't effective because I was trying to finish.
Yeah, but you're missing. No,
I was trying to finish.
You're letting it off like I'm like talkative to everybody.
But I gave you your chance to speak, and I listened.
Yeah, but Nick,
now you have to let me finish.
Okay, I'm gonna let you finish,
and then you speak.
But before you finish, let me just clarify. He said I'm so talkative. Nick, let's not exaggerate this. But anyway, he said I'm so talkative, but technically, you know what? What do you call it? Like, I'm more introvert, talkative, if that makes sense. I'm more introvert. Now so I'm talking to a camera, but that's another story.
My point was just proven, right? I was trying to say something.
This is silly.
And obviously, I don't have to say anymore. But like I was saying, like, you know, that was a challenge. I'm like, oh man, she's just going and going and going. And I have to kind of like show empathy. Because that's the word. It seems like that's the word of the night, empathy.
And sympathy.
I have to show empathy.
In some instances.
I can't just say, hey, I'm done, and cut her off. You know, I have to just listen and go along with it. But I mean, over so many years or whatever, I guess it rubbed off on me. So I talk a lot now. So I mean, I guess it worked out.
He was talking before I was talking.
So that's what it is. Okay, so that's what it is, guys. I just thought about that because I kind of gave y'all a generic answer. And I had to come back, and I thought about it, and it worked.
He's social. So he's more social with people outside, like, than I am. I am not as like, I'm kind of like, okay, like, do I know you? Okay.
Yeah, but this is
if I don't know you, I need to get to, like, I take a long time to get to know people.
This is not about people. We're talking about me and you communicating.
Yeah,
so
that's what we're talking about. But
And I'm giving you my story.
No, but you know why I'm rebutting? Because he makes it look like he doesn't talk.
No. I'm saying
you talk a lot to people out there.
No, but it's not about people out there. That's what I'm saying. It's me and you.
That's communication.
Me and you.
He talks to people out there. I'm more kind of introvert. I talk to people in here, and you guys are in here, so I have to talk to you guys.
Okay, guys. You guys see what I'm talking about, right? My point is proven.
Okay, Nick is the socialite, and I am just like a homebody. I just like to stay in the house. Okay. All right. So, oh my gosh. To wrap this up, obviously, remember, do you have any other points before I wrap it up?
I just thought, I'm sorry, guys. I gave you a generic answer first, and I had to think about it. So, that was the one that I kind of like, oh yeah, I guess I got it.
Well, let me think. He's labile. So he switches easily in his personality, right? So I had to understand him, but okay, so I'm labile too, but I switch out faster than Nick. So when Nick is not in a good mood, like, okay, so Nick will go from happy to not so happy, like that. I do the same thing. But the difference between us is I feel like I'm kind of a little bit more like this, where Nick is a little bit more like this. So he takes a little more time to kind of come down. Whereas Nick can literally get me so aggravated and so angry, and I will be boom, 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 fuming about the whole entire thing. But then give me a little while, and like I'm back to like nothing ever happened, right? But I think you kind of flip back to nothing ever happened too.
Yeah, and
you go through a longer period.
So it's not out, like, yeah.
I don't even know what it is. We both kind of flip flop.
But listen, it's okay to say like nothing happened. I think what you're trying to say is the respect we have for each other. It doesn't linger on that, like you're upset about something and I'm upset about something.
Key thing in communication.
You know what I mean? So you have to have respect for each other.
Yeah.
For you not to harbor those feelings
and hold on to it.
So I mean that's another big part of it. So there's so many different parts to this thing. It's huge.
So men like to communicate. You just have to find out how your man likes to communicate.
That is true.
Men do like communication.
Yeah.
Okay? I know for sure they like communication. We all know how they like to communicate the most. But men do like communication. Okay? It's just, we need to be very careful about how we look at different types of communication.
Yeah.
And we need to equalize it because not one is better than the other.
And let me ask you a question. So when we're talking about communication, right? What's the easiest way to get somebody to stop talking to you? When does somebody feel like they don't want to talk to you anymore? When they're not interested in what you're talking about.
Yes.
You get what I'm saying?
Yes.
So if there's no interest in the conversation, then the person is gonna kind of lock up, right?
Yeah.
So we got to be careful about how we talk about communicating. Are we talking about stuff that interests our partner, or is your partner interested in what you're saying? You get what I'm saying? So, and that also goes back to what we said earlier, the respect. You know what I mean? I might not totally buy into what you're saying, but because I respect you and love you, I'm gonna show you that respect and listen to what you're saying and try to engage in what you're saying. But I mean,
and we have moments like that for sure. But we disagree. I just think it still goes back to where I said initially, like just knowing that person, right? Yeah.
In and out, knowing that person in and out, and respecting that person. And God, let me tell you something, guys. I'm gonna let you guys in on a secret. All of this that I'm saying, I didn't just learn this, right? I think I said it. Have I ever said it on here?
I don't know.
Like my wife encouraged me to go to some retreat. What was it called?
Oh,
a seminar.
Marriage. We went to a marriage retreat.
It was a retreat?
It was like a retreat.
So it was like years ago, decades ago, right? And I was so reluctant in going. And I went. I don't know why. Why did I even go? Why? Because I was like, I'm not going anywhere, blah, blah, blah. And I went. And I'm going to tell you right now, man, it was a life-changing experience. Like, that was like a defining moment. One of the defining moment. Because it put a lot of perspective on a lot of things.
Into communication.
That was going on. Not only communication, but just the whole relationship.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, don't be too... What I say all of this to say, don't be scared to listen to others. Yeah. You know what I mean? Or explore other options outside your relationship to get better at what you're doing.
Yeah,
you know
relationship is constant work. The wheel is always going to be turning.
Yeah.
If you don't keep turning that wheel, your relationship is now gone, right? So it's constant work. Sometimes the wheel's going to spin a little bit quicker, and sometimes it's going to spin a little bit slower. But you have to keep the wheel moving in order to keep the relationship solid. And
it was work. It's work. We always said it's work, right? Yeah. It's always work.
Oh, trust me. We are not the type that try to play like we're perfect. We have been through some things, okay? But we also, as we have been through some things, we have come out of them. And I want to say unscathed, like untouched, unbruised, and it's unbattered. So we have come through.
And maybe I'm overusing the word, but respect, man. Respect goes so far, man. When you
lose it, you have to get it back.
Yeah, when you respect somebody, when you respect and love somebody, like you really think about your actions. they're more impactful. You know what I mean? Like when somebody say, "Oh, I love this person," or "I respect this person,"
but do you?
If you don't, if if it's not real, your actions is gonna tell. You know what I mean? It's gonna tell, because the impact that your action is gonna have, whether it's good or bad, is gonna show.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The feeling you get. So if you love and respect, like I love and respect my wife, if I do something to hurt the relationship, I would feel so devastated.
Because you're one. Just keep that in mind.
I would feel so hurt. I would feel so lost. You know what I mean? So, and that's because I love and respect the person I'm with. You know what I mean? I mean, a lot of people, you say you do, but are you really showing that? Are you really committed to that?
That's
you know
true.
What I mean? So
that's true.
And that's just in my opinion, you know. So you don't have to take me for what I said. It's just my opinion on that. So
okay, so basically, I guess we're ready for a wrap up. Listening and having empathy and kind of knowing the difference between the communication patterns of a man versus the communication patterns of a woman. Women are empathetic, sympathetic, emotional. Men are more like problem solvers.
Stoic.
Knowing that, yes.
No emotions.
Stoic,
blah, blah, blah.
not feeling as much or showing as much
emotions.
They may have emotions. They may not be showing the emotion. So just keep that in mind.
We use less words every day.
Using less words.
According to you.
Well, it was actually a study. It was a scientific. I should have my quotes. So
we're
ready.
Less talkative. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, less talkative.
So it goes back to what I was saying. You were talking more than I was.
Yes. There's a huge bug over there that's drawing my attention away. But anyways, so I don't know how it got in here. Anyways, so less talkative, and men just, they operate differently. And that's how we are balancing the scale, okay? So that's how God made us, to operate independently, differently. We are in his image. So ultimately, man and woman together make the ultimate pair, make the ultimate oneness, and it's supposed to work. So you guys, go out and get a PhD on him, okay? Go out and get a PhD on her. Study her. Try to understand her. What makes her tick? What makes him talk? Literally, what makes him talk. And you guys will find that you guys are so much better with each other, and learn to spend time, quality time with each other. Find things to do. It doesn't have to cost a whole lot of money. Just spending time. It could be a board game. It could be something that you guys are compatible with, right? Something that both of you guys want to do. Or maybe he picks one weekend. This is fun. He picks one week. You pick one week. I know Nick is a little more laid back. He probably wants to go to a really nice restaurant. And I'm like, let's try skydiving indoors. Although it's probably a total fail. But do things like that. Explore each other's, the things that make each other, stay alive. Okay. All right. Anyways.
I think what you're trying to say, keep the relationship fresh.
Keep it fresh. Keep it flowing.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Motivate yourself.
There's nothing wrong with that. You know what I mean? You got to constantly, reinvent yourself, for lack of better terms. You know what I mean? Reinvent your relationship. So, exactly. There's nothing wrong with that. But, overall, this is a great topic, guys. It's communication is a big deal in your relationship.
Love,
effective communication,
humility, and unity. Unity is where it all comes down to. Okay, so anyways, if you guys have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave them in the comment section down below. We encourage them. You guys are quiet. You guys are watching, but you're not saying anything. So please go ahead. Feel free to leave a comment down below in the comment section. And let us know how you feel. Let us know how you think. If you have any encouraging tips or solutions for people that are having issues with communicating, go ahead and leave it down there too, because we're not experts here and we're not the only ones that know everything. Right? So definitely leave your thoughts down below. Okay.
So just tell us what you think, man. Give us your thought down below.
And keep those relationships going strong.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right.
So
until next time, guys, we will see you guys later. Bye.